Welcome into a special edition of Rebound Off the Net Inside the Desert Hawks as we preview the Hawks 2024 season. I'm your host, Joshua Cox. The Desert Hawks reside in Odessa, Texas, and will compete in the South Division of the AFL, which includes the Louisiana Voodoo, Orlando Predators, and Georgia Force. Boosting one of the most talented rosters in the AFL, their Arena Bowl expectations in Odessa. They will be led by head coach Chris Siegfried, who returns to the sidelines for the first time in 7 years, and he is here with us today to help us preview the Hawks. Coach Sig, welcome back, man.
Welcome. Thanks. Appreciate you having me on. It's actually been 12 years. So.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that long.
2012 was my last full-time season up with the Pittsburgh Power.
Wow.
So that was a fun season. So.
How's it feel going back to the sidelines after that long away?
I'm excited about it. I mean, this has been something that I've been thinking about a lot the last few years, especially being involved with the NAL previously as our commissioner, and when they announced the AFL coming back, started thought crossed my mind, and after I resigned, and fortunate enough that Zach Bug reached out to me and made this thing happen. So I couldn't be more excited than I am right now.
Coach, the AFL announced yesterday the partnership with the NFL Network. I believe you all got about half your games on there. Talk about what that means for your Hawks team, the league, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's exciting to be on such a big network, the NFL Network, to have their support. And, let's just throw it out there. It keeps a lot of people quiet now. It answers a lot of questions. So, we got a lot of doubters out there, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a huge undertaking, and to come back with a league with 16 teams, I don't think anybody thought it was possible. I think a lot of people had their doubts. So, fortunately, the teams and coaches that have been working for months and months, we've known about some of these things, but we've been kind of sworn to secrecy until it was announced. So, we've just kind of been patient, and now that it's being announced, it's interesting how the players are reacting, and it's like being at a call center sometimes. Now that they realize it's going to happen, and we are going to be on the NFL Network, it's exciting, and it definitely puts us on the map from the start.
I talked to Coach Ware up in Albany a couple days ago. They're getting a lot of the headlines, but you all have a really talented team too. Where do you think does your team stack up against the top teams in the league?
I mean, I think it stacks up pretty well. I've got to know Coach Ware better now since we're both on the sidelines. We talked up there in New York at the big reveal in New York City, and we actually started talking pretty regularly. So I watch his transactions and their posts a lot. I know he watches ours, and I think they're going to be one of the teams to beat. They're stacked with some really good players, but I think we're going to be okay.
Coach, you weren't there in Odessa last year, of course, but the team struggled in the old league, the NAL. Attendance wasn't what they hoped for. When you talk to Zach, how do you feel about the organization right now? Do you believe the move to the AFL, the NFL Network deal, as well as put a top-tier product on the field will boost excitement and attendance?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, right? So the team didn't perform well last year, and they had their struggles. They had some injuries, and had some things that led to their record not being as good as it could have been. I think their coach did a pretty good job. Obviously, the record didn't show it, but he's a big time high school coach out here, and if anybody knows anything about high school football in the state of Texas, especially out here, that's a big deal. So he decided to stick with the high school route, which I've gone to couple of his games. He does a good job, but as far as our team and the transition to the Arena Football League, the rebranding from Warbirds to the Desert Hawks was huge. I think the biggest challenge is getting people to understand that we're on another level now, on the field, in the league. They're used to different tiers of the game, whether that be NAL or whatever leagues they were in before. And this is just different. And what we're creating out here and the athletes that we have coming here are very good, and we expect to be competitive every week. And I believe this is going to be kind of like a Philly type of town, where as long as you win, they're going to show up. But if we don't put that winning product on the field starting in the first week, it could be a long season on and off the field.
Coach, if you would, introduce us to your coaching staff and tell us a little about this, guys.
So coaching staff is, pretty much finalized. My defense coordinator is Terry Foster, a gentleman that's been around for a number of years. I actually met him a few years ago when he was running the Jersey Flight in the NAL and kind of keeping that organization together in a very, very difficult market. I knew of Coach Foster before that, but we didn't really ever talk or have a relationship, and no reason to because I was out of the game for a few years. So he'll be running the defense. Hired a young man by the name of Spencer Region as my line coach. Love this guy. He's a big guy. Played at Clemson under Dabo Sweeney. He currently coaches for the UT Permian Basin, which is a powerhouse D2 team right here in town. That their coach just got Coach of the Year, and we do have a great relationship with that team and with that school. Love what he brings to the table. He's going to get along great with our guys up front. From a on-field coaching standpoint, that's pretty much it. I'll be running the offense. I do have, we've got our equipment manager in place. I've got a fourth gentleman on staff who I've known for 24 years. He's going to be our quality control coach, and that's going to be my son, Cody. So I'm excited for him to, see him work with these guys. And, he grew up around the game. My last year playing, he was a baby. He was a month old when I went to camp for the Augusta Stallions in the AF2. Excited for him to see him kind of get back in this atmosphere. But for the most part, it's a coaching staff of 3. We may or may not add a 4th coach at some point, but right now that's what we're rolling with.
Take us into what a game week looks like with your coaching staff. How do you, as a coach, prepare for a game?
Well, I'll kind of describe it on a Saturday to Saturday type of deal, even though we have very few weeks where we play Saturday to Saturday. But typically, we try to give them off one day completely, usually the day after the game, typically a Sunday. But your typical work week for us is one heavy film session, which would be a Monday, 3 practice days, which are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Friday would be a walkthrough or travel day. Our practices during the regular season are going to be around, hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours. We'll do everything in the morning. We'll do our film sessions right after practice. We're gonna film all the practices and evaluate every day, every play, every day. It's really for us going to be more about recovery and the important things they do off the field. We try to give all these guys their afternoons off to do. Basically whatever they want to do, hit the gym, some media appearances, which they'll be doing those basically every day. Not every player every day, but we'll have appearances every day. So it's definitely a morning schedule for these young men, and there's some old guys on our team, but you know how it is. Keep it light, and we'll have fast practices, high speed. There's not going to be a lot of standing around, so it's going to be 90 minutes to 2 hours of high-paced practice. We won't be doing a lot of hitting during the regular season. It'll just be keeping our, recovering from the games and getting our legs back. So, other than that, it's again, it's recovering from the game and prepping for the next week. But these guys got to be pros and take care of their bumps and bruises. We have massage therapists on staff and some stretching people on staff. We utilize UT Permian Basin for their training staff. We've got a great relationship with those guys there, so we're excited to work with them. So,
Coach, give us your thoughts kind of on the makeup of the league, how it's shaped out, and how you feel about the league as you enter year 1.
Well, I think the guys behind the scenes, Commissioner Hutton, Travell Gaines, some of the deputy commissioners, especially Matt Hines, are working very hard to get this thing, to where it needs to be. Fortunately, many of the teams have had some experience playing in an indoor league, whether it's NAL or CIF or IFL or some other league out there. So they have some of the infrastructure in place, which I think is huge in this first year. I think we'll have our growing pains as a league, not necessarily business-wise, but on the field. I think there'll be some ups and downs. Some teams that are not experienced in this brand of football might struggle early. I think that the teams that have experienced staffs are going to they should, in theory, get jump out of the gates pretty quickly as far as what kind of product they have on the field. But I think by the second half of the season, everybody should be rolling pretty good. So all in all, it's been a little bit more relaxing for me because I'm not dealing with all the behind the scenes stuff that goes on to put a league on. And when I was doing it was anywhere from 6 to 8 teams, not 16. So I'm sure Lee and Travell have 2 to 3 times the headache that I've ever dealt with. So I'll let those guys handle that part of it this year.
Let's look at your division now in particular, made up Louisiana Voodoo, Georgia Force, Orlando Predators. Where do you see the Hawks fit in the division? What are your thoughts on the other teams in your division?
I think we got a strong division. I don't know much about Louisiana. I think that they're going to be a sleeper. I know one of the quarterbacks that they signed is a very talented young man. Georgia, obviously late to make their hire, but Durwood Rockmore is a friend of mine. I was a rookie in 1992 on the practice squad of the Predators, and he was a veteran DB, very well respected, knows the game inside and out. We open up with them, so we'll see how that goes. But I think that Georgia and Orlando, both being in their particular locations, are going to have a plethora of great athletes available to them. Orlando obviously having some some recent history of being on the field, and our coaching staff for the most part has been around the game for the last few years. I do have our entire division circled, but I do live in Orlando, or one of the suburbs of Orlando, so that game might be circled a couple times with some bold markers. But I know the staff very well. I don't know Donovan personally that well. Their offensive coordinator, Donovan Morgan. I know he was arguably one of the best receivers to play arena football. A number of my losses are attributed directly to him, so I owe him. Of course, EJ played for me. EJ's a wonderful person. He was a great player, and their D coordinator, Kenton Rickerson's a dear friend of mine. He also played for me. But, 2, 4, 6 games of the year between our division, we're not going to be friendly. So, I think we match up very well against any team that we go up against. But, I didn't come 1,400 miles away from my house to put a subpar product on the field. So, I guess it's time to put my money where my mouth is, I guess. But I'm just excited to be out there, and I'm trying to really put a top-notch arena product on the field. And I guess the biggest issue I have at this point in time is I just don't know a lot of these guys that are getting signed. I don't know a lot of these staffs from some of these other teams. I know about half of them. So I'm going to be just watching a lot of game film when the season starts. When it comes to, even Louisiana, I don't really know those guys very well at all. So, but we're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to continue to build this roster, and and this staff is ready for the challenge. So we're very excited, if you couldn't tell. I might be still a little bit tired from my drive over here the last couple of days, but definitely very excited to be here, and I think this market is going to really be one of those sleeper markets. We do have an older, smaller arena, but we could start out of the gates pretty quick. I think that people will come out and really embrace this team.
Coach, we'll get into specific players here in a minute. But tell us a little bit about the process of putting the roster together, how you evaluate players, and kind of the role you've played in this roster.
Well, there's a number of players that I was familiar with from where they've been in the past few years. So, I not knowing I was going to be in this position a few years ago or even last year, when I would watch games in the NAL, for example, when we were playing the arena style, which they did up until this year, I simply recognize good football players, and so a lot of the guys that I've signed have come from that league. Other guys are free agents from other leagues, and so between myself and my staff, we just evaluate the players on a daily basis. I start to reconnect with a lot of the agents and guys that train these athletes, and I've always had really good relationships, especially with the guys in the Canadian League. So and now a couple of guys in the UFL that used to be in the Canadian League. So it's just about always looking and always recruiting. So, I think we have a relatively veteran team right now. So I've been concentrating in the last month or so on some of these younger guys that are new to the game, so that we can continue to grow the game and teach the game to these young players. And I'm excited. I'm very excited about the roster. And I guess when it comes down to cut day is going to be a little bit tough, just because I like every single guy that we've signed, and they're all, in my opinion, they're all very, very good players.
Yeah, that's where I was going next. When you get to cut day, you got to get down to 24 and 21 on the active roster. For you, what's the difference between that guy that makes it and that guy that don't? How do you determine that?
It's just going to be evaluating him on a daily basis. So, when it comes to roster moves, it's really not a matter of me making a decision. The players actually, in my opinion, they make the decision for us. That's why watching practice film to me is so vital, because, a practice could seem like, a guy's making some good plays. Let's say a receiver, for example, seems like he's making plays at practice. And then when you get on the film and you evaluate, maybe his route depths and his, everything was not really where it needs to be. And granted, making plays is a huge aspect, and sometimes, guys that just naturally make plays maybe aren't the best route runners, so to speak. But when you grade practices over the course of time, when it comes to a neck and neck decision over player one and player A and player B, the grades usually kind of tell a story of where they're heading, but. Cutting these guys and sending them home is the worst part of the job. But ultimately, they make the decisions based on how they practice every day. And if guys aren't practicing on a regular basis, they're not going to make this team. There's a saying I grew up on, which you can't make the club in the tub. And we won't have guys playing on Saturdays and Sundays that don't practice.
Let's start out. We'll start with the quarterback position. I know you have Jonathan Bain. You're very familiar with him. Charles McCollum, Corey Curtis. How's your quarterback room looking? Is there a leader in the clubhouse, and what are you looking for the one that wins that job?
Well, you just went right for the jugular there with the quarterbacks. So I mean, that's a tough one. I'm familiar with both Charles McCollum and Jonathan Bain. Both experienced, exceptionally good quarterbacks. Those guys are going to have a battle. You know what I mean? There can only be one starter. They know where they start on day one. Same with Corey Curtis, and it's each other's job to win the job for number one, number two, and whatever. Charles has won a lot of games, won championships in both leagues. When I say both leagues, the IFL and the NEL. Bain's done really well in the NEL, the arena style. He's got some experience in the AFL and a little bit in the IFL. I think played for Coach Dozell when Clint was down there, and God, I could see their logo. They're an airplane. One of the IFL teams that still plays. Anyway, I've probably seen, Bain's coming off an injury with Orlando, so that's obviously from a father figure. That's always a concern, is seeing a guy coming off an injury. So I think both Jonathan and Charles have a lot to prove. Charles is getting a little bit older, so. Both of their windows are closing quickly, so I really think it's going to be a pretty good battle. Now, Corey Curtis, here's a young man, 6'4", 235, started out at Ohio State, ended up transferring to Bryant, played there, and then finished up at Gannon, and had great stats. Gannon D2 school up in Northwest Pennsylvania, PSAC, same conference I played in. So he's a young man that's got all the physical tools. He's on the NFL and the CFL radar as we speak. And, when I signed him, I said, hey, you're coming in as number 3. And here's number 1 and number 2, or, 1A and 1B. These are who you got to beat out. And he was like, I'm ready for the challenge. So, Yeah, I'm excited to see him develop. He's got, like I said, he's got all the tools, but this is not a game that many people pick up really, really quickly. So hopefully he can push those other guys and make a name for himself. So, but again, they're going to be showing us the staff on a daily basis who the best guy is, and that's going to be a very, very interesting battle. I'm excited to watch it.
Let's move on to the fullback, linebacker. Most of those go both ways. The only ones you got on the roster listed is A.J. Hill at fullback and middle linebacker Cecil Cherry. What do things look like at those two positions, and how will you use the fullback position?
So the good thing about our guys, our bigs, AJ's lives here locally, played on the team last year. I don't think he was utilized. He wasn't utilized the way I'm going to utilize him. I look at him as a true fullback linebacker. He's big. He reminds me of a guy that I had back in my Cape Fear days named Clint Cochran, who was just a beast at fullback. I think he's got the capability to be that offensive threat. I do like to run the ball, relatively speaking, not like other leagues, but I do like to use my fullback to run the ball and catch the ball out of the backfield, and that's just kind of to keep the defenses off balance a little bit. Cecil Cherry is this guy's a very explosive linebacker. He's a lot of people might think he's undersized for the position of MAC linebacker in our league. He's only about 235, maybe 240 by now. But this guy's absolutely explosive playmaker, can run. He's quick. He could be a pretty dominant force at that position. Fortunately for us, a lot of our other bigs, like Calvin Fance and Falioga Russell, we've got some guys with a lot of versatility, and that's kind of the key, is having guys that can play multiple positions. When we're building these rosters with the bigs especially, it's about guys that could do more than just rush the passer, or guys that could do more than just pass protect. We've got a lot of guys with versatility, so that's kind of what we look for. So there could be a couple other sleepers at that position, one in particular that we're looking at here in about a week at his pro day, and I'm going to leave that one at that. So, but fullback linebacker, we're not deep on paper, but again, we've got some other bigs that could play those positions and fill in. But those two guys are pretty prototypical for the fullback linebacker position.
Let's move on to the receiving corps coach. Looney Outlaw, Jordan Gandy, Lance Evans, Kijon Battisti, Isaac James Gray. What is that looking like? Who are some of your big play guys there?
We're big, and we're in the process of bringing another receiver in as well. We'll probably have 6 or 7 true receivers come into camp. We're big. We're veteran. We've got 4 veteran receivers. I don't know if you mentioned Lance Evans, but we've got Lance Evans. The veterans are Lance Evans, Jordan Gandy, Lonnie Outlaw, and Devin Wilson. I think the Devin Wilson signing probably could have shocked a lot of people just because of the perceived relationship of commissioner and player from the past. But one of the things about Devin that I like is everybody that I've talked to and everything that I've seen, his work ethic is second to none, and that means a lot. When you hear about a guy's work ethic at practice, and he also coaches and teaches in high school, and he's a real student of the game, and I think Devin's still got a lot to prove. I mean, he's one of those guys that sells out on the field in a good way. The first time I saw Devin playing, it was actually up in Maine, and I saw him diving over the walls to catch a football. Now I hope that doesn't happen this year, but I mean, he's a tough-nosed player. Lonnie is just big, and he was with Philly back in the previous AFL days, and I've seen him with Columbus and Orlando the last couple of years. And I know he's been working hard this offseason, so I'm curious to see what kind of shape he comes in. Jordan Gandy, a guy that I saw a little bit last year, but I really refer back to his college stuff, at Murray State. He's a special player. And then, of course, Lance Evans is, he's just smooth. Watched him, especially last year, just kind of put on a clinic in the NAL, and he's got that top-end speed, and he's big. As far as our young guys, Kejon Batiste out of Gannon as well, 6'2". He's our small receiver. Young explosive guy. We got one more that we're getting wrapped up in the next day or two. He hasn't been announced yet, so I won't throw his name out there. But our receiving corps should be pretty solid. But with those 4 veterans, that's and like I said, they're big, so they should pose some matchup problems. The defensive backs in this league are going to have to really, be physical, and our guys, they need to challenge these guys. They need to use their size to their advantage. So, should be fun.
Move on to the O-line, D-line. A lot of those guys will play both ways. You have a lot of linemen signed. How's the line shaking out? And it's been hard trying to recruit players to play both ways on the line.
Well, line, the line's been a tough one. We've actually, there's a number of players that we've lost actually in the off season. A couple of guys have retired due to injury that we were counting on. So, but you kind of, in my opinion, you kind of build, it all starts up front. It doesn't matter how good the quarterbacks and receivers and DBs are if we're not good up front with our O-line and D-line. But, offensively, we've got some guys that we like a lot. But again, there's 3 or 4 that unfortunately, 2 in particular that aren't going to be here because of injury. One's officially retired, and the other one is kind of on the fence whether he's going to retire or just put him on the physically unable to perform list. He's coming off of a back surgery. So, but the other guys we have, we got a blend of some young veterans and some even younger players. So, we're gonna piece it together up front, and we'll be all right offensively. I don't know if you asked about the defensive line, but I feel pretty good about that as well. I think I wouldn't say we're necessarily deep at the defensive line, but I think we're very talented. We've got some good edge rushers, and we got some good more interior nose type players. And for me, 2 of the better pass rushers in the last few years has been Shaquille Holiness and Justin Alexander, and to get those guys coming off the edges is going to be pretty fun to watch. And then with some of the guys in the middle, Trevante Valentine and Armani Carey, Zay Burks. I mean, we've got some dudes up front. Of course, I threw in Calvin Fance as fullback linebacker, but he's also a guy that can play with his hand down defensively and offensively. So, a guy like Calvin is just really, really one of those throwback guys. I say throwback back to the early days of arena football when you had guys just being able to play, just great athletes playing multiple positions, and that's what a Calvin Fance brings to the table.
All right, Coach, defensive backfield, some of those receivers will flip over and play DB also. I know you have specifically DB, Kenny Vale, Savante Davenport, Christoph Page. Talk a little about the defensive backfield and how that's shaping out.
Well, secondary is pretty solid. We've got some veterans, and we got a couple young guys. Right now, on paper, you got a guy like Kenny Veal, anchoring the DBs, but Chris Page, Savante Davenport. We've signed Delvin Randall. I mean, that's a pretty good core of DBs right there. Got a couple young guys, Anthony Davis, who spent a little bit of time with Orlando last year, and Isaac James Gray, who young guy that actually unfortunately went up to Albany last year and got caught up in that, and then but he went to Ball State, and he's a good athlete that's played both receiver and DB at the college level. So he's one of those young guys that we expect him to come in and really push these veteran guys. So yeah, it's kind of that blend at almost all the positions where you have the veterans and then you have some young guys, and just kind of see how it shakes out. But it's gonna be fun.
Last position coach, your kicker, Brandon Brown. Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, Brandon's got a little bit of experience in the Arena League playing for Baltimore back in 2019 or 2018 or somewhere, and we're actually gonna bring the kickers in a week late. We'll be outside for the first week most likely, and then the second week we'll be in our arena. So we'll bring Brandon in, and we'll bring a couple other guys in to compete with him, and we'll let that be a competition too. We'll bring some kickers in on a waiver for a couple of days, and but it's Brandon's job to win or lose. But the two other guys we got coming in, or at least that I think we got coming in, are veteran kickers in their own right. So, we want to have the best that we can possibly get at every position. So, but the key for us is having a guy that's got the leg strength to hit the net all the time. And, we know that the guys that we're targeting have that leg strength. With the AFL keeping the deuce rule that we created in the NAL, that's going to be kind of huge. And kicking game is going to be very, very important, especially here in our arena, which we have an overhead obstacle that kickers need to avoid, and so it's going to be interesting. But getting back to the bringing the nets back, and it's really a staple of arena football. It's we were able to do that last year with that other league, but arena football has always been known to have those rebound nets, and as much as I love them, it's also, in my career, it's also cost me some games. I mean, I've won some games because of them. I lost some games because of them, but I just love the game with the rebound nets, and having kickers that can utilize those nets on kickoffs and whatnot is it's going to play a big role in our game for sure.
Coach, who's a player we don't know their name now, but fans will know their name by the end of the season?
Man, that's a good one. Gosh, it'd be hard for me to answer that question, because in order for me to point out a guy, that means somebody else isn't going to be on the team. But I've got some guys on the D line that a couple of guys in particular, Trevante Valentine and Zay Burks, that they're not your edge type rushers, or they're more interior guys, but they're nasty. They can be nasty, and the centers in our league will get to know those guys. Between of course, a lot of guys know the other guys like Shaquille Holiness and Justin Alexander, but I think we've got some young guys that could make a name for themselves. I think Isaac James Gray out of Ball State, and then he ended up finishing at Youngstown State. I think he's a wonderful athlete. I really like what I see in this kid and his versatility. But we actually just signed a guy. I don't know if he's come across, but we just signed a guy that's is pretty interesting in his own right. Spent the last few years in the Canadian League. He's another DB named Nick Marshall. People may remember him because he played a little bit of quarterback at Auburn. So I think those two guys. Nick's not young, but he's a rookie to this game. But I'm all over the place with these guys, so I'm trying not to, commit too much to any of those guys. But I think from a true young guy standpoint, I think Isaac James Gray is one of those guys because of his versatility in his college career. He's really, he played at Ball State 1 year as a receiver, 1 year as a DB, finished up at Youngstown State as a DB, and I believe his head coach at Ball State said he was a high school quarterback. So he truly is the epitome of a do-it-all type of player, and I think he's one that if he can break into this lineup, he's one that could really be special. But again, he's got to break into a lineup that the veterans that we have, if they come motivated, it's going to be a very tall task just to beat those guys out.
Coach will be airing this during training camp. Tell us a little bit about camp, what it'll look like for you all, and what are your plans for camp?
So we will be a morning practice. We're going to stagger the guys coming in. We're going to bring the skills in a couple of days early. The skills being the quarterbacks, receivers, DBs. Kind of get them acclimated on the field a little bit. The bigs will come in. Probably first practice will be Sunday or Monday, whatever that is, around April 6th or so, 6th or 7th, somewhere in there. And in that first week, I believe we might be outside for most of that first week, just kind of getting it dialed in. I don't do double sessions with these guys. We'll be on the field around 9:30 in the morning. We'll be off the field about 11:30. But that first week is really kind of you want to ease into it, but you got to get a lot of work done in 2 weeks. So that first week is going to be kind of crucial to make sure the guys are, get their legs underneath them. We won't do any kind of heavy banging until maybe 4 or 5 days in, 3-4 days in before we actually start getting after it. But it's that second week that's going to be crucial when we get inside, get into our arena. Bring the kickers in, start putting it all together. Add the kicking game. So that second week is going to be, especially the first part of that second week will be the heavy lifting, so to speak, right, where most of the decisions are going to get made. And the second part of the last week of camp, the second week of camp, will be really just dialing it in, polishing, and we're not necessarily going to wait till the end of camp to make our roster moves. We'll make them as we go when we know. But the key is just honestly, and for all the teams, just staying healthy. If we could stay healthy, then that'll be huge. And because without any bye weeks, 10 straight weeks of games, we got to really make sure that the healthiest guys, are there, and that we don't grind them too much during the practices. We're going to try to get the officials in here for a couple of days during camp. Or at least whatever crew is going to be the local crew, and get them working with the guys and, setting some expectations as far as how they're going to make calls and getting the young guys used to the nuances of the rules of arena football. So, a lot of morning practices, a lot of food to eat, and, a lot of treatment and training room. So, but we're looking forward to it. We're only, roughly 2 weeks away, a little over 2 weeks away. So we're looking forward to it.
Last question for you, Coach. Is there something about your team or franchise that's not on paper you'd like fans to know? And with that, do you have a message for the rest of the league?
Well, it all starts up top with Zach Bugg. He's got a vision. When we met back in October, our visions aligned, and I knew once we met here in person, I wanted to put the type of team on the field that I think that I know he deserves, and more importantly, that the cities of Odessa and Midland deserve. I think we have a small market, a small arena, and it might not be the sexiest arena for TV games, but we're really looking to put an AFL caliber, top-notch AFL caliber product on the field. And, as a coaching staff and as an organization, we know what we're capable of doing. We just want to put it out there and we want to put our best foot out there and show the league that, don't take us for granted. If you look over, if, you're looking past us, that's fine. We're okay with that. We won't be looking past any team that we play on any weekend. And, we can't guarantee wins, but we can guarantee that when we're playing against you, you're going to be in for a battle. Our guys are going to be ready and hungry, and I'm very excited about what we're building here. It's both a short-term and a long-term vision. We've got some. For the players' standpoint, we got a lot of food and great housing. Our owner and we have plans of building an indoor facility over the next year or so, and really creating, West Texas as a mecca for arena football. At least that's part of our vision. We want to make this a destination city and be able to recruit, against some of these maybe sexier markets. But my experience out here, I've been out here basically every month for a couple of weeks. They welcome me with open arms, so I'm very excited to be here, and I'm putting everything I can into this team and putting the best product on the field. I want the AFL, league office to be excited about the product they see here in West Texas. I want the fans to be excited about it. I want them to, come see us the first week, which will be an NFL Network game Sunday. I think it's noon or 1 o'clock at the Ector County Coliseum, and we want to kind of pack it in there and show them that this is different. This is better. We are the top level of the arena game in the world, and that's what our focus is, giving the fans of this area the best product and the best value, best bang for their buck, and a complete entertainment, complete show. So, I'm excited to do this, and, I wish camp started tomorrow.
Sounds great, Coach. Coach, we appreciate your time, and we look forward to watching the Hawks play, man.
You got it, man. Thank you very much for having me on the show, and best of luck to all the teams in the AFL, except when we play you.
This has been a special edition of Rebound Off the Net Inside the Desert Hawks. I'm your host, Joshua Cox. We'll be back with you again before you know it, but in the meantime, always remember, catch the rebound off the net.